Hi everyone, welcome to the Tiny Studio. My name is Nail. If this is your first time joining me in the Tiny Studio, feel free to go ahead and subscribe and like my channel. I am so sure that you will find the content on this channel to be of your liking, and you will laugh and have a great time when you join me inside the Tiny Studio. So today is Sunday afternoon. What are we going to talk about today? Well, this is of course a special crochet and chat, and we are going to review Love and Marriage Huntsville Season 4 Episode 5. It was a very, very good episode. I enjoyed it tremendously. And what I enjoyed most about this particular episode was I enjoyed the conversations or the discussions between the cast members. Very, very to the point and real. Well, as real as you're going to get on reality TV, right? Yes. So what are you working on? I'm going to be working on my Afghan, and you have seen me working on this on other crochet and chats. The last time we spoke, I was working on triple crochet and a couple of rows of triple crochet. Remember, it was supposed to be 3 rows of triple crochet, and it ended up only being 2 rows. So here are the 2 rows. It's in black of the triple crochet. Now I am on the star stitch, which is the combination of double crochet and single crochet, and here is a row of the star stitch that I'm working on. And you may ask, how do you create the star stitch? Well, let's do it now. Okay, turn it around. So the star stitch, as I said, is a combination of double crochet and single crochet. So let's work it together. All right, so as you know, double crochet begins with 2 loops on your hook. Insert your hook through the stitch, grab your yarn. Now there are 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 more, and that is double crochet. All right, now the next stitch is just single crochet. So you already have a loop on your hook. Insert your hook through the stitch, grab your yarn. You have 2 loops on the hook now. Yarn over, pull through 2, single crochet, and that is how you complete the star stitch. One more time. Double crochet, single crochet, the star stitch. And you will have this beautiful textured pattern on your fabric by completing the star stitch. I also have used this pattern, the star stitch pattern, on my washcloths and my dish towels, and it turns out it has a great texture, and it turns out it feels really well in your hands, and the texture is everything. The pattern is nice, but the texture is what you want when you're making washcloths and dish towels. So that is what I'm going to be working on today. I'm going to be working on my Afghan, and tune in for the next crochet and chat, where I will be talking about the other Afghan that I have featured on this program, and the startling things that has happened as I have crocheted that Afghan. Something horrible happened, and I will fill you in on the next crochet and chat. But this one, we're going to be reviewing Love and Marriage Huntsville, which is a great show. It comes on Saturdays at 8 p.m. So the episode opens up with Melody having a conversation with Tiffany, and you know, they are going over what happened at the Pajama Jam, and Tiffany is telling Melody her frustration about the conversation that she had with Stormy. And if you recall, Tiffany and Kimmy were having a discussion about what happened at the reunion, and Tiffany was trying to make sure there weren't any ill feelings still happening, any residual negativity, and she and Kimmy were able to express themselves and iron things out. And then Miss Stormy comes on the scene and wants to rehash what happened. So of course, you know, Tiffany does have a slick mouth, and she says something slick and smart, and Stormy stormed off. Stormy stormed off. And you know, Tiffany was like, I don't think that we're going to have a good relationship. And Melody says something that is so true, which you really don't find on reality TV too much. You know, Melody told Tiffany, hey, if it turns out where you two ladies, if it turns out that you can't be friends with Stormy, that's okay. You don't have to be friends with everyone you come across with in this group. And I thought that was cool. That was cool in Melody to say that, because when you watch reality TV, especially you're watching something that you already know that sometimes these friendships are only formed on TV, for TV, and by TV. And sometimes these friendships that you see on television, they only last as long as the cameras are rolling. When the cameras are not rolling, there is no friendship. And I think we kind of learned this a little bit with all of that craziness that happened on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, with us believing that Portia and Fallon were friends and that Portia was bringing Fallon onto the show. And then we find out later, well, maybe that friendship wasn't really a friendship at all. It was a manufactured, fabricated friendship for the television show. And like Melody was telling Tiffany, we don't have to do this here. If you go to have this conversation with Stormy to see if you guys can work out your differences and start over and begin a friendship, if you see that it's not working, then it's just not working, and there's no need to pretend that it is. And I'm thinking that Melody is coming from a personal place as well, because in her relationship with Destiny and Letitia, both she did not invite to her Pajama Jam. And so I'm wondering if Melody is at a place in her life where she's not doing the fake friend thing either. And, you know, let's be honest, none of us should be doing the fake friend thing. If a relationship is not working, it would behoove you to get out of it, to move on with your life. Even though you may have had time and you have memories, you have all the things that you invest in a relationship, you have all of that, plus the memories. And it's very difficult to walk away from a relationship that is not serving you, because of your memories and the ties that you have to it. But if you want to have some sort of peace in your life, you have to make that difficult call. And once you do it, you find that there is a burden that's released from your shoulders. You begin to find that you feel lighter in your life. You do feel that peace again. So Melody saying that to Tiffany gave Tiffany the option or a choice, I should say. It gives Tiffany a choice. It gives her the opportunity to see if a relationship or friendship can be forged between herself and Stormy. And then it also gives her an out if it doesn't work out. So if the friendship or relationship does not work out, Melody is letting Tiffany know you don't have to have any type of obligations toward Stormy or me. You have to do what's best for yourself. And I really like that. And what Melody put down, that straight facts. And it's something that we can use in our lives, especially those of us who do not live maybe 10% of our lives on television. We can use that same advice in our own lives and in our own relationships and friendships. Tiffany also tells Melody that she was at the book signing that Martell held for the kids' book, newly released book, because the children are authors now, or co-authors with Martell. And of course, Tiffany only received one side of the story about why the kids weren't present at the book signing. So Melody tells her side of the story. And her side of the story is she only received a 1-day notification that there was going to be a book signing. And being that she had a death in the family and she was due home, she had to gather the children and go home. And that's why she wasn't there. So Tiffany says, well, there's always his side, her side, and then there's the truth. And Melody said, well, for me, her side is the truth. That is what happened. And I'm not going to allow Martell to control me, which is what he has a pattern of doing. And if you recall last week, I noted something that I believe to be important to know, especially about this situation. And the fact of the matter is, you can be right and wrong at the same time. So in this situation, let's say that Melody did receive only a day's notification, which I do not agree with. I don't believe that. And when the reunion comes, I'm going to need receipts, okay? But excuse me, Melody is right in the fact that Martell should have held this event on the week that he had the children. And Martell even agrees with this in a conversation that he has with his publicist about the same thing. And his publicist also noted that the next time they plan any kind of event that involves the children, or that he would want his children to be present in, they need to make these or create schedules so that these events coincide with the weeks that Martell has custody of the kids. And that is a conversation that is had between Mel, the publicist manager, and Martell. So Martell acknowledges that that wasn't the best choice to make, which means that even though he was wrong about his part of that situation, in a way, the feelings that he had in that moment that the kids were not there for the book signing, they were valid. Because let's face it, Melody could have brought the kids by for an hour or two before or as she was heading out of town. She could have packed all the kids' things, their luggage and everything in the car, and they could have swung by the event She could allow the children to sign some books for an hour or so and left. What will that have cost? Absolutely nothing. But pride. So Tiffany goes on to have a meeting with Stormy at a local restaurant, and they have a good conversation. But the conversation that they have about what happened that evening at the pajama jam, it seems as if Tiffany has an issue with doing more talking than listening. And that seems to be Tiffany's problem. She does a little too much talking. Oh, but I'm leaving something out about Tiffany. I don't want to leave this out. Tiffany, as they were having that discussion about divorce and what it's like to be divorced and the trials and tribulations of being a divorced woman, Tiffany becomes transparent about something, and she becomes transparent about the reason that her first marriage ended in divorce. And I thought this was really, really good. As Melody was talking to Tiffany, somehow she was able to get Tiffany to talk about the reason why her marriage ended in divorce. Tiffany said the reason was because, quote, she wanted something different. So I'm looking at the television screen and I'm saying to myself, different? Tiffany, what does that mean? You wanted something different. Please explain to us. Because, some days I want some Faygo Red Pop and the other days I want a Cherry Coke. Explain to us how that works when you're married. How is it that you would want something different when you're supposed to be in a lifetime commitment called marriage? So Melody is just as puzzled by that different that answer. She's puzzled by it as well. So she asks Tiffany to explain, well, what do you mean? So Tiffany begins to, go around that mulberry bush again, but she kind of lets the cat out the bag by saying that that what she wanted from her husband, he wasn't able to provide financially. She wanted more money. She wanted more substance. I'm guessing that she wanted to live a certain type of lifestyle. And her husband, who's supposedly her soulmate, I have questions. She says that her first husband was her soulmate, but because he didn't supply her financial desires and fulfill her financial aspirations, she decided to leave him. So she says her first husband was her soulmate. He is, of course, now deceased, but she claims that she's learned a lot from this poor decision she made in leaving her husband, her first husband. She says she's a different person now. I hope that she is, because she said her first husband still loved her and still wanted to be with her before he transitioned. But you know, she didn't want to have anything to do with him because he didn't have any money, which is very tragic when you think about it. Very, very tragic and heartless. And Tiffany says that she has grown from that incident, that she has learned a lot from that incident. But can you change fundamentally? Can you change from being a cold-hearted individual to an individual who is more compassionate, sincere, loving, and humble, filled with grace? I don't know, because to do what she did and admit that this person, this man was her soulmate, to be so cutthroat to a person that you say you really love, is interesting to me. Because did you really love him at all? That's my question. That doesn't sound like he was your soulmate. That doesn't sound like you were in love with him. It sounds like you were, Tiffany, in love with what he could do for you. And when you realized that he wasn't that person, then you dumped him. So anyhow, Tiffany is at this luncheon with Stormy, and they're supposedly having a conversation about what happened and trying to get over that hump. And Tiffany is just running on and on at the mouth, and Stormy is like, you know, this is too much. And the camera shows the time lapse and how Stormy, you know, the expressions that are on Stormy's face over time as Tiffany is constantly talking about herself, which goes back to me, for me, to that conversation that that conversation that Tiffany had with Melody about why she left her so-called soulmate, also known as her first husband, because it was about her. And as we see, Tiffany is supposed to be having a conversation with Stormy, and the conversation is about her. So obviously, in a lot of respects, the Tiffany Lewis story is probably only about her. But of course, that's my opinion and that's my judgment. And of course, I do not know them. I only know what I see on television, which is probably less than 10% of the true story. As Marceau pointed out in a meeting that he had, or a conversation that he had with Big Lou, who is Tiffany's husband, over at Black. Maurice was there for that conversation. And Marceau said what I just stated to Big Lou. He says, how can you have judgments or opinions and commentary on my marriage and call my marriage a bad marriage based on knowing me for all of 5 minutes? You don't know anything about me. You don't know anything about my wife, Letitia. You don't know anything about us. And Big Lou says, well, wait a minute, Marceau, you and I, we've known each other for years. And Marceau said, skirt. Hold up, bro. I've known of you for a certain amount of years. You've known of me for a certain amount of years, but you don't know me. What you know about me, you know from television. And as I said before, that's less than what we know about these people we see on TV is less than 10% of who they really are. Less than 10%. Probably less than 5% of who they really are. So Marceau is like, man, you owe me an apology. Because you were talking about things and placing a judgment on my marriage and my relationship, and you know nothing about it. You've only known us for all of 5 or 10 minutes. You went on a trip with us, and now you're an expert on us? How can that be? And so Maurice, jumped in, and, Maurice was giving Big Lou some, examples of what Marceau was saying, and Maurice was correct. He was absolutely correct. He was letting Big Lou know, hey, what if I sat back and I said some things about you and your wife, and I don't know you. I don't know enough about you to have or form a public opinion like that. And so Big Lou was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. And so Big Lou apologized to Marceau. And Maurice then turned to Marceau and said, hey, bro, isn't there an apology that you have or that's forthcoming that you need to give to Big Lou? Because Marceau has said some disparaging things about Big Lou as well. Why am I calling this man Big Lou? I heard somebody calling Louis Big Lou, and now he's just Big Lou to me. I don't know who it was, but I heard somebody call him Big Lou, and now he's Big Lou. So Marceau at first acts like, nah, I don't owe that dude an apology, but he goes on to give Big Lou an apology. And Maurice noted that over the years since they've been on reality TV, Marceau's heart has become a little hardened and cold. He was always the loving person, the person who gave out, who apologized when he was wrong and things of that nature. And Maurice says that, since they've been on television, it's been a little different. And can you blame him though? I mean, it's just something about social media that if you're on it for an extended period of time, especially if your life is being broadcast on television, it's just something about social media and the reaction that you get from people that you have to put up that brick wall. You have to put up that thing that keeps you from exposing yourself, that keeps you from demonstrating too many feelings and emotions. Because when people see you exhibiting emotions and being sensitive and soft, they want to use that as a weapon against you. And that's why Marceau, Maurice had noted that Marceau used to be the person that was quick with the apologies, but not anymore. He's not that brother anymore. And that has a lot to do with social media, because I know myself that on social media, I'm a sensitive person. I'm empathic. So I'm very sensitive to things, and I'm also sensitive about truth. And if I see something that is not true, I'm the person that's quick to say that's not true. I'm quick also to see past what is in front of me. I see to the heart of it. So whenever I'm on social media, it's a challenge because a lot of people don't have that gift. And I have to remind myself that not everyone is empathic. And I think I'm going to do a video on being an empath on social media. I think you might find that interesting. If you don't know what an empath is, tune into a video that I will post, and I will talk about being an empath And if you notice that sometimes, that usually when I'm posting or in a video here in the tiny studio, I'm wearing crystals. And like I have on a crystal now on my neck, and it's an amethyst, if you can see that. Excuse me. It's an amethyst, and I usually keep crystals on my arms. So I have some amethyst on right now, and I also have on it'll come to me, garnet. I have some garnet on my wrist as well. So I have crystals and things, crystals in my on my person for two reasons, but one of those reasons is to prevent the flow of negative energy coming towards me. And amethyst is a protection crystal, so it protects me, and it protects my aura from a lot of different low vibrating energies and evil and things of that nature. So usually when I'm on social media, and I always have my crystals on, when I'm on social media, I try my best to stay away from a lot of negativity, because negativity is what propels you and propels your spirit and your energy to be depleted, and it takes you to the lowest of the lows. So I can understand why Marceau behaves in the manner that he does, because there are a lot of negative entities on social media, and you can't be soft, because if you are too soft, they will trash you and walk all over you. So I do get it, and I understand it. I just hope that he is still the loving Marceau to Letitia and to his children, because that's what's really important, and to his family. That's what's really important. It doesn't matter whether or not he is cold-blooded or cold-hearted to the people on the outside of his immediate family. What matters is how he shows up for his family, and how he nurtures and loves them and respects them. That's what's really important. So if he's kept that part of himself and he's keeping it just for his family, I have to applaud that. And Marceau, I disagree with him on a lot of things, but I am a comrade with him when it comes to protecting and fighting for your family. Right there, we're comrades. Before the meeting with Big Lou at Black, between Marceau and Big Lou, Maurice has a conversation with Marceau, and it's about his honeymoon. And how well the honeymoon was. And I don't know, I wonder how Kimmy felt. But I saw her on social media today posting some pictures and video of their honeymoon. But I wonder how she felt about the things Maurice said about, the transformation that many brides make on their honeymoon. I wonder how she felt about that discussion, because I know it was funny to me. I was laughing, but Marceau was like, hey man, listen, I don't need to know any of that information, man. That's my sister-in-law. I don't need to know. That was some TMI right there, but I thought it was funny. It was amusing, and it was fun to see Maurice talk about, speaking that manner about his wife. That was interesting. I enjoyed it, and that was a honeymoon long overdue, because I think they've been married for 3 years now. So it was really wonderful that they were able to get together and have a good time. And when you're on your honeymoon, that is the moment where you're supposed to be uninhibited. You're supposed to become an exhibitionist. You're supposed to just go there, with the person that you love. A honeymoon is it's that point in time where you're going to get to know each other intimately and experience some things together that It's going to create memories and also be that thing that you go to when you're going through, difficult times in a marriage. You get to remember those moments where you were uninhibited, you were loving, you were kind, you were receiving, all of those things. That's what a honeymoon is supposed to do. It's supposed to give you a cachet that you get to a cachet of feelings and memories that you get to reference throughout your marriage, especially during those times where you're going through rough weather. So that's a good thing. It's wonderful to see that they had a great time on their honeymoon. Next, we enjoy a scene that I thought I brought it up briefly, but it was a scene with Martell and his manager or publicist, and I believe her name is Mel or Melanie. I don't know, but he calls her Mel for short. And again, she reiterates the point that if they're going to have an event that Martell wants the children to attend, that they need to schedule those events on the weeks that Martell has custody of the children. And he agreed. Which, as I said before, is some things that Martell says in this episode that shows that he is growing, and he's not that same angry and aggressive husband, soon to be ex-husband, fighting for his family. It seems as if he has accepted that the marriage has ended, and he has accepted that that family that he created with Melody has imploded, and now it's time to move on and do other things. And it seems as if he is finally getting it from what we see on camera. His publicist lets him know that he has to be careful because now he's building his brand. He has books out now. He has a wine that's coming out, and you want to keep your brand clean. You want to keep your brand positive. And as she noted, that picture that Marceau posted, you're going to have to distance yourself from ridiculousness like that because it's not good for your brand. It's detrimental to your brand. Another point that they were talking about together was the cover of an upcoming cookbook that Martell has in the works. And the cover of that cookbook featured him shirtless in an apron. And he agreed that cover would not necessarily be appropriate because he wants to excuse me, let me have some of this dandelion tea. I'm drinking I'm drinking dandelion tea today with a little orange blossom honey. So what Martell was saying, that picture, the cover picture of him shirtless in an apron, he said that would be inappropriate for wives to have this book in their kitchens. And and I agreed. even though I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cookbooks, and my husband isn't sitting around looking at the covers of my cookbooks. I mean, that's something that my husband is not doing. But I can understand how, if you are a man who used to be a husband, you understand how offended you would be if your wife had that cookbook in her kitchen and she's looking at it. And she's not just salivating over the recipes, but she's salivating over the cover. I was thinking about the Neelys. You remember the Neelys? They had this show, this cooking show on the Food Network called Down Home Cooking with the Neelys. The Neelys, right? I used to watch that show faithfully every single day. And I bought several of their cookbooks. But can you imagine there being a cookbook with Pat Neely on it while he was still married to his wife, and he's shirtless, and the only thing he has on is an apron? I don't think Gina would co-sign that, and I don't think she would co-sign even if even knowing what we know today, that they were, having a very, very difficult marriage. I still think that she wouldn't be cool with that. At the time, that's not cool. So, and then it wouldn't be cool for me to have that cookbook in my kitchen either. A picture of Pat Neely without a shirt on sitting there on my counter. Even though it is a real tasty, delicious thought. But no. It's disrespectful, disrespectful to a marriage. And it doesn't matter how good or how tumultuous it may be, it still isn't a good thing. It's not a good look. So, Martell gave us a glimpse of another cover that they were considering for his cookbook, which is going to be a vegan recipe cookbook, and that looks so much better. It looks so much better, and this just shows that Martell is beginning to see the world outside of his own feelings and emotions. Because Martell could have went ahead and said, I don't care what these other husbands are thinking or will think about me being on the cover. Number one, my own cookbook. I don't care about what people are going to think, what other men are going to think. This is about me. This is about me being able to feed my children. This is about me establishing a brand. This is about me doing what it is that I would like to do. This is about me making money. It has nothing to do with how everyone else is going to feel about it. And him coming to the conclusion or looking out for other brothers who are husbands. That's a wonderful thing. And that shows what? It shows growth. It shows growth. And that's really cool. I love that particular scene. That was a good scene. And that takes us into the not so cool part of Love and Marriage Huntsville, and that takes us into a conversation that Letitia and her cousin Kiki had at Black. And I just feel some kind of way about what happened, because it's kind of negative. But it's negative, but it was a conversation that was definitely going to have to take place. And that was the conversation between Letitia and her cousin Kiki. And if you recall, Kiki received an invitation to the Pajama Jam from Melody. And there is nothing wrong with Kiki attending the Pajama Jam. However, There are some things going down in the Love and Marriage Huntsville universe that Kiki is probably aware of, but because of her own nefarious reasonings, she has decided to insert herself into a situation that has made her look suspect. And the fact of the matter is that Letitia and Melody are on the outs. Now, Letitia didn't know that she and Melody were on the outs until a conversation that she had with Destiny made her aware of it. And that's when Destiny informed her that Melody felt as if she was fraternizing with the enemy, Letitia. That Destiny was having a conversation that featured her, Melody, with Letitia, whom Letitia now considers her enemy. So Melody felt some kind of way about it, and that's why Destiny and Letitia did not get an invite to the Pajama Jam. But Kiki received the invite. Now, of course, we know, okay, that Melody Holt is a producer over at Love and Marriage Huntsville. We know that she's a producer. We know that it's her job also, not only as the star, but as a producer, to keep the action and the drama going on the series, right? So I'm sure that, and we'll have to see at the reunion, but I'm kind of certain that Melody and Kiki are not that type. Are not that tight, I mean. And certainly Melody knows that Kiki and Letitia are not that tight. Because had she known that, she would not have invited her enemy's cousin to the Pajama Jam. So the conversation that Letitia and Kiki have centers around the fact that Kiki was at the Pajama Jam and that Kiki was also disclosing information about Letitia and Marceau's marriage at the Pajama Jam. And like Letitia said, you know, I wasn't there. So my name should not have come up. Number one, my name should have not come up at all. And when it did, the conversation should not have continued with you at the helm. And I agree. So, in her defense, and I thought this was interesting because I got a little lost in this conversation, but and correct me if I'm wrong, if you watched the episode and you weren't as lost as me, let me know what your thoughts are about this. But during this discussion, in her defense, Kiki said that, or brought up a situation where Letitia had been talking behind her back and had been telling personal information and tidbits about her life to Melody. So let me say this again. Kiki accused Letitia of having private, personal conversations about her and sharing things about her to Melody. Now, Letitia said, yes, that's true. I did do that, and we discussed this, and I apologize for that. And that was 4 years ago when this incident occurred. 4 or 5 years ago. I apologize, and I thought we were past it. But obviously, They're not past it. They're not past this. So they start arguing, Letitia and Kiki, and they're arguing, or Kiki is arguing about some stuff that happened 4 or 5 years ago. And like Letitia said, we talked about this at length for 4 hours. We discussed this at length for 4 hours. We came to a resolution. I said I was sorry. You accepted my apology. So are you now saying that you never accepted my apology? You are not over it. And you were waiting for an opportunity to get me back. And when Letitia basically broke out and says that, and I'm just, paraphrasing it. Letitia said, well, I guess we done. Because we're not going to be able to come up with a resolution. Because I thought we had one, but obviously we don't. And I want you to keep my name out your MF mouth. So I think that we're done here. We're done with having a relationship. Of course we family, but we done as far as having a relationship. Because you are looking for ways to get back at me over something that was supposed to be squashed. And so Letitia leaves and she calls Kimmy on the phone and she tells Kimmy what was taking place, and homegirl comes out of black, Kiki, and says, oh, what you doing now? What you doing? You talking about me now? You talking about me behind my back now? I'm like, girl, bye. So negative. But what I want to know is, what did Letitia tell Melody about Kiki? What's the tea on that? I mean, that must have been some really, really hot, juicy information if Kiki was very upset about it and Letitia, was on the phone or whatever for 4 hours trying to straighten things out with Kiki, apologizing and everything. It must have been bad, I guess. But it was 4 years ago. And you still hot about it? What was it? What's the tea? Who knows? If you know what that tea was, spill it for me down in the comments, because I want to know. I mean, what Letitia did was so bad that she spent 4 hours trying to clear it up, and then you spent 4 years still harboring that anger, nursing that anger and that pain, and you've been waiting all this time to exact revenge on Letitia, and your perfect moment was the jammy jam. I don't know what else she said at the pajama jam. I only know what was on camera, or what was broadcast 2 weeks ago. I only know that part, or last week. I only know that. And even though, yes, she had, something to say about Marceau and Letitia's marriage a little bit, to me, it wasn't significant enough to say that Kiki was talking bad about Letitia, in my opinion. So I don't know what happened what scenes they cut out of the Pajama Jam that we are not privy to that showed Kiki really talking about Letitia and Marceau. We don't know. I would like to know. But it still goes without saying that just a little bit that happened to be in last week's episode, even that, as innocent as it appeared, was still too much. Because nobody needed to know whether or not Letitia had to take a long, quote, a long look at her marriage, as Kiki the cousin said. We don't need to know that. That's none of our business. And here's the thing. Who hasn't? I mean, who hasn't from time to time taken a long, hard look at their marriage? Who hasn't? I think we all have. I think circumstances in life, drop in our lap or in front of us, and we all have to reassess our marriages and our relationships to see where we're at, to figure out, okay, so I screwed up here, I might need to redirect my efforts over there, or I might have to rethink the way I handle certain businesses or issues within my marriage. We all do that. All married couples do that. So then the question becomes, was there something more said? And like I said, Kiki should have said anything about Letitia. If anything, what Kiki should have said was, my cousin's not here and I don't feel comfortable having this conversation about her. Don't ask me anything about Letitia because I don't know. And that may be a lie. You may know everything about your cousin, but in that atmosphere, I don't know nothing. And I feel uncomfortable with this conversation centering around my cousin. But that is most definitely how the episode ended. It ended with that continue thing, to be continued statement floating across the scene. So we'll find out what else happens between Letitia and Kiki, but we kind of figured that Kiki showing up at that Pajama Jam like that, yeah, it wasn't a good look, and she knew that. I think Kiki just wanted to be on camera. I think Kiki just wanted some fame and some coins. So she made a deal with Melody to be on the show for whatever reason. But was that reasoning worth it? Was it worth the relationship with your family? That's something that the Judices and the Gorgas, that's something that they had to deal with over there on New Jersey, the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And what was Teresa's cousin name? because it was Teresa and Joe, Melissa and Joey, and it was a cousin that was on that particular show as well, and her family. And you know, they were already going through some difficult times, you know, over there as well. So, did the show bring them together? No. If anything, the show put an even deeper and darker wedge in their familial ties. So you have to always think about those things. You have to think about whether or not cultivating certain friendships and relationships, you know, is it going to be, is it worth putting your family at risk? Now listen, if you just don't give a F, which seems to me how Kiki is playing it, like she don't give a F, well then you do what you think is, you know, you do what you think is best. But is it worth the risk of not speaking to your family member for years? I cannot think of that cousin's name, of Teresa's cousin, and she was on the show for maybe about three or four seasons, I think. I don't even think Melissa's talking to her or speaking to her anymore. I think that when she, the cousin, and her little family first came on the show, Melissa and Joey, they were all cool. And she and Teresa were on speaking terms. They weren't the coolest. They weren't on the best terms, but they were still speaking and respecting one another. But after that, after her stint on the Real Housewives of New Jersey, that was it. So I don't know. It's kind of like what's getting ready to happen, I believe, between Kyle Richards and her sister Kathy Hilton, because now Kathy Hilton is on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and you know, Kyle and Kathy already had a very tumultuous relationship. I mean, they really just now started talking again, speaking to each other and having a sisterly relationship. So from what the trailer of the new season of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, according to that trailer, it seems as if Kyle and Kathy are going to be on the outs again. And that's kind of like the sad part, the risky part of being on reality TV with your loved ones, especially the ones that you've been having a strained relationship with. Because reality TV and social media will do a number on you. Social media and reality TV will destroy your relationships. You know, just ask the folks over there at Real Housewives of New Jersey. Ask the folks over at Real Housewives of New York. Ask the folks over at the Real Housewives of Orange County. Ask Cynthia Bailey. Ask Cynthia Bailey. She'll tell you. I think that's probably why Eva left. You know, she got a new marriage, some babies coming. You got to protect the home. But that was this week's episode of Love and Marriage Huntsville. I hope you enjoyed my review. It's been 1 hour and 4 minutes. So we'll see what happens next between Kiki and Letitia outside of black bar. We'll see what the continuation of that fiasco is. And I think that Destiny and Melody are supposed to meet up in the next next week's episode. So we will see what happens between them two, because they have been beefing as well. So we'll get a chance to find out if they are able to work things out, or if their relationship is basically done. And I believe Melody said that in episode 1 of this season, that the door was closed on their relationship. So we'll see how things turn out, or what the conversation how the conversation develops between Melody and Destiny next week. Destiny, not really a fan of. I'm from Detroit and she's from Detroit, but I don't know. There's some things about Destiny that really makes me shake my head. I'm serious, it does. All right then, so thank you so much for tuning in to this special edition of Crochet and Chat, and I will see you next time in the tiny studio. Have a great Sunday.